The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Welcome back to the rustic barn here in Maine. I'm looking out the window at the snow starting to melt, thinking about the absolute state of the world. It's Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, and Walter, yesterday we were laughing at that Jim Carrey clone nonsense, but today the adults are at the Supreme Court and things are getting heavy.
It's no joke, man. We spent yesterday looking at the Chiles versus Salazar ruling, seeing the court finally protect the right of counselors to actually speak the truth to children, and then, of course, the tragic high-stakes situation with Jaden Ivey being discarded by the NBA for his faith. It's a lot to process.
It's a packed episode today, folks. We've got some incredibly important developments to unpack. The kind of stories that define what a country actually is. We're talking about birthright citizenship at the highest court in the land, a record-breaking shutdown at Homeland Security finally showing cracks, and honestly, Walter, some beautiful news for parents in California who are tired of being lied to.
It's the restoration of the hierarchy, Will, roughly speaking, and we're going to look at the economic collapse of Hollywood dream and why American manufacturing is suddenly screaming back to life. It's bloody complicated, but we have to look at it.
We have to, because if we don't, they win. And who are they? They're the people who hate you. Let's get into it. So, Walter, yesterday, April 1st, and no, this wasn't an April Fool's joke, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments for Trump versus Barbara, and the president himself was there. I mean, think about that. A sitting president sitting in the gallery while the Solicitor General argues that the 14th Amendment has been totally misinterpreted for 100 years. What is going on here?
It was a monumental atmosphere, and you have to understand the archetypal weight of a leader standing in the temple of law to argue for the very boundaries of the tribe. It's about the citizenship clause. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's the phrase. That's the whole ballgame. And Solicitor General John Sauer, who, by the way, is total pitbull, he told the justices that jurisdiction back in 1868 didn't just mean you have to follow our traffic laws. It meant political allegiance.
Exactly. You see, the argument is that a tourist or someone who has entered the country in violation of its laws, they haven't established a domicile. They haven't made a reciprocal agreement with the state. They owe their primary allegiance to a foreign power. To say they are subject to the jurisdiction in a way that confers citizenship, it's a categorical error. It's like saying a guest in your house suddenly owns a room because they're standing in it.
Right. I mean, really, if I break into your house and I have a sandwich, do I get a vote on where you go for dinner? No. According to Fox News, the arguments went on for 2 hours, and Sauer was hammering home this domicile theory. He's saying that if you don't have the legal capacity to stay permanently, you're just a temporary sojourner.
And that's what I've been saying. I mentioned this back in March when the case was first heating up. Citizenship must be consensual. It's a contract. It's not just a geographic accident. If the state doesn't consent to your presence and you don't owe exclusive allegiance to the state, then the biological fact of birth shouldn't trigger the legal miracle of citizenship.
But you know, the other side is screaming. Al Jazeera is reporting that this hits close to home for millions. And the ACLU is out there saying this is a radical departure from history. They're pointing to United States versus Wong Kim Ark from 1898. They say the soil is what matters. But Wong Kim Ark was about the child of legal residents. That's the distinction the ruling class wants to smudge. It's no joke. They want to pretend there's no difference between a legal immigrant who has pledged himself to the flag and someone who hopped a fence last Tuesday. Because they hate the idea of a border, Walter. They hate the idea that you have a say in who becomes your countryman. I saw Justice Sotomayor was asking some pretty pointed questions, basically suggesting this would create a permanent underclass of people born here who aren't citizens.
But
isn't that what we have now? A confused, fragmented population with no shared identity because we've cheapened the very concept of belonging. It's a tragedy of the individual, Will, being told you belong to a place that you're legally not supposed to be in. It creates a psychic fracture.
Well, we won't know the ruling until June or July, but the fact that it's even being argued, the fact that Sauer is in there talking about 1868 dictionaries and the intent of the Reconstruction-era Congress, it feels like the frame is finally shifting.
It's the architecture of being, roughly speaking. You have to have a foundation.
Okay, so while the court is figuring out who is a citizen, the Department of Homeland Security is currently a ghost town, Walter. We are on day 48. 48 days of this shutdown. It's the longest in history for a single agency.
It's bloody chaos, and all because of the tragic events in Minneapolis back in January, when those 2 citizens, including Alex Preddy, were killed during that enforcement operation. The Democrats used that tragedy to try and gut the very agency responsible for safety.
They wanted to defund ICE because a tragedy happened. I mean, think about the logic. Something goes wrong during a high-stakes arrest, so your solution is to stop arresting people? According to CBS News, the Senate finally blinked today. They passed a bill to fund the non-controversial stuff, the TSA, the Coast Guard, FEMA, but only through September.
Well, that's the thing. They're trying to split the baby. They want the convenience of the TSA, which, let's be honest, Will, is largely theater, while they continue to starve the actual protective barrier of the border. It's the devouring mother archetype. They want to provide a sense of safety while actually leaving the door wide open.
And Trump put out a post on Truth Social late last night, basically giving the green light. He said, fine, fund the TSA, but give me a shutdown-proof bill for ICE and the Border Patrol by June 1st. He's playing hardball. He's saying he'll take the partial win now, but he's coming back for the rest of the budget with a sledgehammer.
It's a strategic pivot. It's no joke. And the House is still on recess, right? Speaker Johnson hasn't even called them back.
Exactly. The Senate does this voice vote while the House is out for 2 weeks. It's like a shell game. NPR's reporting that the deal is basically done in the Senate, but if Johnson doesn't bring the House back before April 13th, the TSA workers are still working for IOUs.
It's cruel. It really is. You have people who are just trying to provide for their families, working in high-stress environments, and the ruling class treats them like pawns on a chessboard. It makes me want to weep, Will, the lack of respect for the individual's responsibility.
Well, Walter, you might weep for the TSA, but I'm laughing at the Democrats. They thought they could hold the whole department hostage because of a tragedy in Minneapolis, and now they're being forced to fund the security theater they love while Trump sets a trap for them on the border funding in June.
We'll see if the House GOP has the intestinal fortitude to actually hold the line. Roughly speaking, they usually cave.
They usually do. But we have Doge now. We have Elon and Vivek cutting 10% of the workforce. The ruling class is actually feeling the heat for the first time in my life.
Speaking of heat, let's look at what's happening in the courts regarding the family. This is truly beautiful. In California, and I never thought I'd say beautiful and California in the same sentence lately, but a federal judge, Roger Benitez, just ordered the state to pay $4.5 million, $4.5 million to the teachers who fought back against gender secrecy rules.
$4.5 million. That is a lot of taxpayer money being sent to the Thomas More Society. And why? Because the Escondido Union School District told teachers they had to lie to parents. They told Elizabeth Mirabelli and Lori Ann West that they had to use a kid's preferred pronouns in class, but switch back to biological ones when talking to the mom and dad.
It's the parental exclusion policy. It's a crime against the soul, Will. It really is. To ask a teacher, a person who is supposed to be a guide for the youth, to actively participate in a deception that severs the bond between a child and their progenitor, It's the most demonic thing I can imagine. It's the devouring mother state trying to claim the child as its own.
And the judge didn't just rule against them. He issued a permanent injunction. He said the state cannot force these teachers to be part of the transgender disclosure ban. This is huge. The Ninth Circuit tried to stay the ruling, but the Supreme Court stepped in and said no, the injunction stands.
You see, the truth is a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just have to let it loose. Those teachers, they risked their careers. They were denied religious accommodations. They were told that their faith didn't matter in the face of this postmodern neo-Marxist ideology. And now what? The state is being held accountable.
And it's not just California. Kansas lawmakers just overrode their governor's veto to pass a bill protecting pregnancy centers. They're saying the state can't discriminate against these pro-life centers when it comes to funding and resources.
It's a restoration of balance. Roughly speaking, we've spent 40 years pushing the family to the margins, and now, in the last 24 hours, we see the legal system saying, enough. The parents are the primary stakeholders in the child's life, not the state, not the school counselor with a degree in grievance studies. The parents.
I love it. I love seeing the bill come due for these activists. $4.5 million. That's going to buy a lot of common sense.
It's a start, Will. But the damage done to those families, it's no joke.
No, it's not. And that's why we need independent voices, like what we're doing here. Before we get back to the analysis, let's deal with a hard reality. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, the Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself to just the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
It's about building something that can withstand the chaos, roughly speaking.
Exactly. Now, speaking of chaos, let's talk about the Detroit-ification of Hollywood. Walter, I saw these numbers from Film LA. Production in Los Angeles is down over 22%.
It's a death spiral.
17,000 jobs vaporized in 2025, and 2026 is looking even worse.
Sound stages that used to be 100% booked are sitting at 60%.
I mean, the people who actually build the sets, the lighting crews, the hair and makeup people, they're losing their houses. And why? Because the studios are fleeing the taxes and the regulations of California.
It's the same thing that happened to the auto industry. You see, you create a parasitic relationship where the regulatory state and the unions demand more and more while the product becomes less and less grounded in reality. And then the Detroit of entertainment wakes up and realizes everyone moved to Georgia or Texas or just stopped watching because they're tired of being lectured by multimillionaires.
That's the disconnect. You have Leslie Jones out there, the Ghostbusters actress who, let's be honest, her movie wasn't great. She's out there attacking the average American again. And then you have Bruce Springsteen, who I used to love, the working class hero. He's out there doing these high-priced fundraisers and talking about how deplorable half the country is.
It's the loss of the common man archetype. You see, Springsteen used to represent the tragic struggle of the individual in the industrial heartland, but now he's part of the court of the ruling class. He's the bard for the people who want to shut down your factory. It's no joke. It creates a profound sense of betrayal in the audience.
They literally hate the people who bought their albums for 40 years. They hate you. It's fascinating. The industry is collapsing, people are losing their livelihoods, and the celebrities are spending their time calling the customers bigots because they don't like the latest woke reboot.
And that's why production is down. It's not just the money. It's the spirit. People don't want to work for an industry that hates them. They don't want to tell stories that serve as propaganda for a dying ideology. Roughly speaking, Hollywood is hollowed out.
Well, Hollywood is hollowing out. The middle of the country is actually, wait for it, making things again. This is our main story today, Walter, and it's the best news I've heard in years.
The ISM manufacturing report just came out, and American manufacturing is growing at its fastest pace since 2022.
The manufacturing PMI is at 52.7, production is jumping, and it's being driven by reshoring. People are actually bringing the factories back from overseas. They're realizing that relying on China was a suicide pact.
It's the return to the logos of production. You see, when you stop making things, you stop having a grasp on reality. You become a service economy, which is just a fancy way of saying you're a nation of waiters and middlemen. But when you build, when you forge, you're engaging with the world in a meaningful, masculine way.
And we're doing it with energy. The U.S. is producing more oil and gas than at any point in history. We are the global stabilizer. While the Middle East is on fire, we're pumping enough to keep the lights on and the factories running. It's the common sense energy policy that the ruling class tried to ban for a decade.
But we have to be careful, Will. I saw that Senator Bernie Moreno is calling for a total ban on Chinese-linked vehicle technology. He called it a national security cancer.
Cancer, that's a strong word. But is he wrong? According to Car Scoops, he's pushing this total ban because these Chinese EVs are basically spy phones on wheels. They collect data on where you go, what you say in the car, and it all goes back to the CCP.
It's the Trojan horse. Roughly speaking, if you allow a hostile power to control the infrastructure of your movement, you've surrendered your sovereignty without a shot being fired. The smart car is the ultimate tool of surveillance for the postmodern neo-Marxist state.
And the manufacturing growth is happening despite what the ISM calls tariff chaos. I mean, think about that. The ruling class in D.C. is trying to make it hard with their confusing trade wars, but the American worker is so productive and the reshoring movement is so strong that we're still hitting 2-year highs.
It's the resilience of the individual, you see? When you give people the freedom to build, when you stop the state from devouring every piece of capital, they will find a way to thrive. It's the architecture of the rebound.
I mean, really? 55.1 on the production index. If we could just get the government to stop spending us into oblivion, the prices index is still way too high at 78.3, we would be in a golden age.
That's the friction, Will. The inflation is the result of the state's refusal to clean its own room. They want the manufacturing growth, but they don't want to stop the postmodern neo-Marxist spending spree.
They want the fruit, but they're trying to kill the tree. It's classic. But look, between the Supreme Court finally looking at what citizenship actually means, and the parents winning in California, and the factories coming home, I'm feeling, Walter, I might be feeling optimistic. Is that allowed?
It is allowed, but it must be an optimism grounded in the reality of the struggle. It's no joke. We are in a battle for the very definition of the family and the nation.
Well, we're going to keep fighting it right here. Let's recap this crazy day. The Supreme Court is debating if being born here makes you a citizen if your parents were just passing through. Spoiler, the founders didn't think so. The DHS is partially reopening because the Democrats realized they couldn't win the PR war over TSA lines. California is $4.5 million poorer because they tried to turn teachers into liars. And American factories are humming again because made in the USA actually means something.
Roughly speaking, it was a good day for the truth.
It was a great day for the truth. And remember, folks, if the ruling class is crying, you're probably winning. They hate you, but we love you.
Clean your rooms, take responsibility, and we'll see you tomorrow.
What is going on here? Stay free, everyone.